Okay, so hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. This is a conversation that we're going to have with Sam Adams, who runs Southend Pride. She's the chair of Southend Pride. My name's Angela, I work in the policy team at the council. I'm a policy and research officer. So Sam's very kindly agreed to speak to us as part of the work that we're doing around International Women's Day this year. So I'm going to ask Sam a few questions. We'll give her a little intro. I'm going to ask her to introduce herself, tell us a bit about, who she is, what she does, how she's got there, and some of her proudest achievements in that role. And then we'll move on to some other bits and pieces. But for now, Sam, over to you and welcome.
Thank you. Well, as you said, I'm chair of Southend Pride. I'm also the LGBT assistant for the Unison branch. I'm not actually the officer, I'm the assistant for the Unison branch, but I have been the officer for the past 5-6 years, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm also the LGBT officer for Southend West Labour Party, so I'm pretty embroiled with the LGBT politics.
Yeah.
And I suppose I have been since I came out at 14, really. I've always been involved in the political side of the LGBT movement.
Okay.
So yeah, and from that it sort of evolved. I got involved with Pride, started off as vice chair and then co-chair and now chair. So that's me.
That's you. How long have you been involved with Pride then, if you started off as vice and then you were co?
Right from the beginning, the first year, which was 2018.
Oh, okay.
Is that right? I think so. 2018, I believe. I mean, we started planning obviously the year before, so we were getting together before then. But yeah, from the very first Southend Pride, I've been involved right from the beginning.
Okay. So what are some of the things you're most proud of, like during out of those years?
I suppose the very first Pride, because we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know who was going to turn up, if anyone. And, we'd spent nigh on a year planning it and working really hard. And on the actual day of the festival, we was up from 6 o'clock setting up and everything. And we was like, oh, we've built it, will they come?
Yeah. Yeah, nerve-wracking.
So we were walking down the high street as a committee, about half a dozen of us. And everybody was supposed to be meeting at the top of Pier Hill for the parade up the high street.
Yeah.
And we was like, oh, what if we turn the corner, there's nobody there, one man and his dog, And then I got a call from someone who was down there, and they was like, where is everybody? I'm down here and there's no one there. So we're like, oh no. So we carried on like, our heart in our hand sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we got to the bottom and we turned the corner and there was literally hundreds of people there.
Oh,
and my mate had just been winding me up.
Oh, that's evil. Oh, I would like to have been in their shoes.
Yeah, but that feeling when we turned the corner, it was just overwhelming,
Yeah.
It was amazing. And after we'd had the parade, we came up the high street. I think it was 700 people that year in the parade. And we came up the high street, went to Warrior Square for the festival. And all of us, like, from the committee, we all just stood there at the gate and we all looked at each other and we all just burst into tears.
Yeah, well, it'd been a long time since Pride had been in Southend, because I remember the 2018 one and I was like, oh, wow, fantastic. Like, and I was really, really just like, kind of like, just chuffed to bits, actually, that it had come back to Southend. But when was the last time before that then? Because it used to run before, didn't it? Or...
There was one, which was a very low-key affair. I can't even remember when it was, maybe 30 odd years ago.
Okay.
And it was just one lorry which had some people on the back of it, and it went for a little way along the seafront and then up to the Cliff pub, and then that was it, really. So it wasn't any sort of big thing or anything.
How have you found reception with like the locals, like with the Pride events that you've run over the past? Well, I mean, I know what happened last year, unfortunately it was cancelled, but in previous years when the event's gone ahead, and also this year, Well, for Winter Pride, I mean. So what sort of reception have you had from like the locals? Have the natives been friendly? Have they not? You know, so I suppose I'm asking the next question really is kind of challenges and obstacles that you've had kind of like in that role, and also specifically being a woman in that role.
In general, I must admit it's been very positive. We've a lot of people are wanting to be associated. As we've grown, they want to be associated with it. They've realised it is quite a big thing, and I mean, especially obviously the LGBTQ community in Southend are very positive. You know, they look forward to it. They want it to happen, and so on. But yeah, I mean, you know, high street businesses, various organisations, you know, they've all starting to approach us rather than us having to go to them, which is nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say on the whole it's positive. Obviously you get your things like if you post on something like We Love Southend on Facebook or something, you're going to get your people coming up and, you know, your usual trolls.
Yeah.
And when anything goes out on the council site as well, you get your trolls on there, don't you? You know?
Yeah.
But as a majority, I would say it's been really positive.
Good, that's good. And in terms of you being a woman in that role, in terms of like chairing Pride, is there any kind of, what kind of obstacles have you found, or advantages actually? Because I suppose you know, or at least on paper it can go either way.
Yeah. I mean, we're quite unusual in the fact that we do have a woman chair for Pride. It is normally men sitting in that position for whatever reason. But even more so, my vice chair is a woman as well. And I think the majority of our committee are women too. So it's it has been quite, I wouldn't say woman dominated, but like, you know, it's been pushed forward by women on a lot of occasions. I suppose it's one of those things, because my name is Sam, and if I don't put my pronouns in my emails and whatever, people do assume that I'm a man. And then they meet me and it's like, oh okay.
Really, still, I think.
And there's also the thing, like, if particularly when you meet like business owners, etc., and if I go along there, I don't know, maybe with another member of our committee who happens to be a man, and then the guy starts talking to us and he'll be directing stuff at the guy, you know, rather than at me. And it isn't until, you know, I say, well, as chair of Southend Pride, he's like, oh.
Oh, that's shocking, isn't it? It really is.
It is a bit shocking.
Decency. If you're not sure, at least have the decency to ask, you know.
Exactly. Or talk to both of us, you know. You don't have to make eye contact with just one person.
No.
You know. But I mean, there are a lot of women involved in the Pride movement in the UK, and also European-wide. There's a lot of women involved. But as I say, not many are chairs. So we are quite unusual in that. Yeah.
What would it take, just going back a bit to the theme of International Women's Day this year, which is breaking the bias? So different themes every year, don't they? So this year it's breaking the bias. So what would it take, do you think, to kind of get that representation of women into, you know, roles such as like chairs or whatever? What would it take within the kind of like LGBTQI plus community, or indeed trans chairs? You know, I mean, what would it take to kind of like break that bias, do you think? How would it work? Is that about education? Is that about quotas? Is that about representation? Like how would that work, do you think?
I think I mean, what we're doing here, we have a youth pride section for 11 to 18-year-olds, and the chair of that is a 18-year-old young woman as well. And I think it's about, like, if there are women within your movement, within your organisation, you know, encourage them, bring them along, you know, let them see how we go about doing things, you know, give them responsibilities, give them opportunities to do more stuff. And as I say, like the Youth Pride young woman, I mean, she's amazing. She's really come on, and she more or less runs Youth Pride on her own now, you know.
That is impressive.
Yeah. And so, I mean, she in her own right is looking at the ones that are younger than her, because obviously she's reached 18 now, so she's going to move up to Big Pride.
Yeah, grown up. Yeah.
So yeah, so she's looking at younger people within the group who she can now bring up, and and a lot of those are young women or non-binary. So yeah, it's just that whole encouragement thing, isn't it? And sort of getting rid of people's anxieties about what it actually means to be in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking, I suppose.
Yeah.
Oh my God, but I think you're right. I think it's a good thing to kind of give people some responsibility to see how it feels.
Yeah, absolutely.
And realise that actually it's not, it doesn't have to be a kind of frightening thing. So it's very much about that kind of, like supporting and encouraging like younger people. Because I also know that the Youth Pride does a lot with our the council, youth council, which is really good kind of collaboration that goes on there. So that's one thing that I suppose you might want to highlight is the kind of like the work between Youth Pride and the council. But also, is there anything else? Are there any other particular projects or ongoing work that you'd like to kind of bring attention to? Because I know that Southend Pride do an awful lot in this city that people perhaps aren't that aware of. So
yeah, I mean, I suppose the majority of people just think it's once a year, you have your parade, you have your festival, but we do work all year. As I say, Youth Pride, which meets once a month, every month, and they get sort of 30 to 40 young people come along. So that's all the planning of their events and what they want to do and stuff. Yeah. We also run once a month, we run a group called Queer Parents, which is for LGBTQ+ parents, and it's a peer support group really, where they can chat about their experiences and give each other advice on what's worked for them and so on. And it's stuff like standing at the school gates and there's two women, your child runs out and it's mummy to both of them, and you look around at the other parents,
yeah, so waiting to see what the response is. Yeah,
it's that whole thing. And it's also maybe like not knowing where to go to for advice because you don't want to out yourself or put your child in a difficult position, whatever. So we run that group. We also run training workshops all year round for local businesses, charities, organisations, for their staff, which is like awareness training. We've also done specific trans workshop training as well. So we do that. We do a lot of work with the mental health sector, looking at how their policies impact on the LGBTQ community. We're trying to do some work with schools and setting up LGBTQ youth groups within schools for people. That's hitting a few snags, but we'll get there. What else do we do? Oh, we work with the local health services as well, again looking at the impact on LGBTQ people and what specifics are not being addressed by the local health services.
The existing services,
and people like Brooke, etc., doing a bit of outreach work with them, coming out to the community. But yeah, we're doing stuff all over the place really.
So it's huge, isn't it? It's actually huge what you cover as an organisation, and it isn't just about, and it isn't just about, as you say, the parade. There's an awful lot of other work that goes on all year round that I think, it's an organisation to be, rightly very proud of. And it's been a pleasure talking to you today, and thank you so much for giving up your time to speak to us. I know how busy you've been, so keep up the good work, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, and festival 16th of July.
Festival 16th of July. All right. Thanks very much, Sam. Thank you.
No worries.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers, bye.